Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. This is going to be the Royal Rumble 2018 full show preview. This is honestly going to be a very good card that's going to be going down on the WWE Network on Sunday. WrestleMania, honestly, I don't know why I said WrestleMania. I apologize. The Royal Rumble is honestly one of my favorite pay-per-views that WWE does each and every year. In my mind, the Rumble adds fun and exciting. Everybody always says that the road to WrestleMania starts on Monday Night Raw, the night after WrestleMania. But to me, the road to WrestleMania starts with the Royal Rumble. The winner goes to WrestleMania to fight for the championship. This year, there's a lot of added prestige to this year's Royal Rumble. For so many years, I'm guessing off the top of my head, close to 30 years now, we've been doing these Royal Rumbles, starting all the way back in the day with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. They added more to it in 1992 when Ric Flair was able to win the Rumble and was awarded the WWF Championship. At that time, it was held up vacant by Jack Tunney because of what had happened between the Survivor Series and Tuesday in Texas between The Undertaker, Ric Flair, and Hulk Hogan at the time. And Rick won the championship. And then from there on out, in 1993 here in Sacramento, California, Yokozuna won the first Rumble. And from there, he went on to WrestleMania at WrestleMania 9 to face the then champion Bret Hart for the championship. And then it became the year in, year out tradition with everybody going to WrestleMania other than Steve Austin, who won the Rumble in, I believe, in 1997 and did not go. They ended up doing the Fatal 4-Way. That ended up being the year at WrestleMania. They did Austin versus Sid, they did Austin versus Bret, and they did Sid versus Undertaker for the titles. Then, of course, Vince McMahon would win in I think he won in 2000, and then they would still do Austin versus Rock at WrestleMania because of then Commissioner Shawn Michaels. Every year since then, the guy has gone on to WrestleMania. The only year that they've had to do anything else is maybe for when Rey Mysterio won, they added Randy Orton to the match. And then also when Roman Reigns won the year of WrestleMania 31, they made him compete at Fastlane by putting the Royal Rumble win up against Daniel Bryan to try and get a little bit more fan base because everybody was booing Roman Reigns even back then. This year we're going to be getting the first ever women's Royal Rumble. This should be very, very fun. They are doing 30 women in the Rumble, and there's not 30 women in WWE. I think just like with the men, you're going to see a lot of people from NXT being involved in the Rumble. It won't be their official WWE debut, but it will be looked at as a sort of a big deal. We saw this with Ty Dillinger, and we saw this with Rusev, with them being in the Rumble even before their call-ups to the main roster, and they always fit in quite nice. There's going to be a lot of surprises, I think, more with the women's Rumble than there is with the men's. But even besides that, this year has a pretty stacked card. I can honestly tell you off the top of my head, the Universal Championship match, the 3-way between Brock, Braun, and Kane, I think is a little bit too easy to predict. And as of right now, I'm thinking that might be the one match on the show that I care the least about in my mind. The SmackDown Championship, it should be a very interesting storyline between Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and AJ Styles. This isn't booked as a 3-way. It's booked as a handicap match. They haven't really explained if Owens or Zayn pins AJ, who wins the championship. It might just be as easy as whoever gets the pinfall. Or maybe they're doing a deal where they're both going to be champion, a lot like they did with Lay Cool between Layla and Michelle McCool, where they, fought over the championship, and the next thing you know, it broke in half, and they each held half of the title. It's something that they really could do there. This match, this show is honestly stacked with tag matches. From each brand. SmackDown is going to be bringing the new American Alpha, which is Shelton Benjamin and Gable, going up against the Usos. And over on Monday Night Raw, you've got The Bar going up against Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan. Both of those honestly should be really, really good matches. From there, because of the Women's Royal Rumble, there is no Women's Championship matches from either brand. I was thinking that Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt was going to be a match that was added here. Maybe because of the fact they're doing 2 Royal Rumbles that basically take about an hour each. Maybe that's going to be what fills up the pay-per-view, because I can't think of any other matches. SmackDown has the... hold on. I know that Rude won the title. So I was thinking that the SmackDown United States Championship was going to be taking place on here, but they already had Rude win the title on SmackDown. So I don't know if he's going to be having a championship match on the show, or if he's going to be involved in the Rumble. But I know this is one of the shows a lot like. I know this is one of the shows that is a lot like WrestleMania, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, where they do the extended pay-per-view preview show. The pre-show is what they call it. So I'm not sure what matches are going to be on there. I know that the big controversy that it's going on right now is that basically one of the matches, the 205 Live Cruiserweight Championship match, was taken off the show. Basically, Enzo Amore was 100% scrubbed from what was going to be going down at the Royal Rumble. It was going to be Cedric Alexander going up against Enzo. My pick right then was going to be that Enzo was going to lose the championship. I'm a big fan of Cedric Alexander. I've seen this guy at Wrestle Reunion as well as WrestleCon, working the booth for High Spots. I bought some DVDs from him one time. I gave him some money and he actually helped me meet Tatanka 1 year. I think he even took the picture, and I asked him for a picture because he was blowing it up in Ring of Honor at the time. And he didn't even charge me for the picture. What a cool dude. He was a referee in the first $5 wrestling, maybe even the second $5 wrestling as well. He was just the referee for the show. But what a good dude, and I'm hoping that he brings home the title. It sucks what's going on with Enzo. I'm not a judge, a jury. I'm not the executioner. I don't know what happened that night in Phoenix. I don't know anything really about that story. So I don't know if he's guilty or innocent. It seems that right now online there's a big push that Enzo Amore might have had sex with this girl, but it was consensual at the time, and she's just trying to extort him for money and fame. So I don't know anything about that. All I know is that WWE let this guy go, and that basically the match isn't on the show. So we'll see if there's any more story to go along with that. But it's going to be a good Rumble. Let's talk about the rest of these matches. All right, SmackDown is going to be having their tag team championships competed for at the Royal Rumble this year. It's going to be the New American Alpha. This is going to be Shelton Benjamin and, of course, Chad Gable going up against the Usos. This is going to be a really good match. Of course, a few weeks ago on SmackDown, we had a little bit of confusion where the New American Alpha, Benjamin and Gable, won a match and were awarded the tag team titles, only for a little bit of a referee snafu, where basically they said that they might have won the match, but they did not win the championships. Basically since then, they've been going out and they've been kicking ass. The Usos are a team on SmackDown which, in my mind, have been having really, really good matches for a long period of time. It's almost like they've been able to, really find that niche in WWE that they've been looking for over the last little while, because, this whole Usos Penitentiary day one-ish gimmick that they got going on right now, where they've sort of taken on the role of being more, you know, real wrestlers. I guess guys from the streets. I don't want to be saying like the Streets Profits from NXT, but these guys have just been going out there. They had their wars against New Day. I'm not really sure if these guys are baby faces or heels, but I don't think it really matters, because once these guys climb in the ring, Gable, Benjamin, the Usos, they're going to be going at it. They're going to be going at it hard. As of right now, I can honestly tell you the story about the member of the Usos getting the DUI. The Usos were both on Monday Night Raw. They were, you know, they were in the background of the card table deal that involved, you know, the Acolytes, Heath Slater, Titus Worldwide, you know, MVP, you know, the New Day. All those guys were there, and they were just sort of guys that were in the background of that scene. So I can honestly tell you, I don't understand why, you know, the one member of the Usos wasn't suspended for DUI. I don't know why WWE doesn't come down hard on that, but I don't think it's favoritism. I just think it's where they stand on that situation. And I honestly, in this day of age of not wanting the wrestlers to be involved in any kind of trouble at all, I would think it would be a lot like what the NFL does, where they would, you know, protect the Shield. Being a wrestling fan for as long as I've been, I can honestly tell you that I'm rooting for Gable and Benjamin to win the championships at this show, but because of my time as a wrestling fan, I might be overthinking this, but so many times in my life I've seen title changes upheld at that moment, where you basically get the dusty finish, where a guy gets to, you know, pose for the championships for a minute before they really take them away. Normally, those guys don't go out in the rematch and win the title. I mean, that is the rub that they get, is that they held the title for that minute. They go out, they normally lose that next match, and then they move on to something else down the road where maybe they win the title. So I really want Benjamin and Gable to win the titles. I just don't really think it's going to happen sooner than later. I just think that I don't think it's going to happen at the Rumble. This should honestly be a really, really good match. Chad Gable's a guy that I've been rooting for a while. I'm glad that they were able to find Shelton Benjamin for him to continue on in the tag team leagues. I just am hoping that someday soon we'll get to see a lot of singles stuff from him. Because as you can remember, right before Jason Jordan ended up on Monday Night Raw, you know, Chad Gable, he answered the United States Open Challenge. He had a really, really good match against Kevin Owens, and this guy also had a really, really good match against John Cena on SmackDown that really blew the house down. And I'm sure they're going to see it. I mean, I'm not saying that this guy's going to be the next Bret the Hitman Hart that has a good long little tag run before he goes after the United States title and then moves his way to going after the WWE Championship. But it sure would be fun. I'm guessing because of the fact that these guys are involved in this match, they're not going to be involved in the Rumble. But you never could know. I remember this was like 2010, maybe even the 2011 Rumble, where it's always sort of mind-boggled me about how guys get entered into the Rumble, whether they just, you know, they have enough balls for everybody to pick one that's in the back. But it doesn't make sense to me, like when one member of the tag team is entered into the Rumble and the other one isn't. So it was like the commissioner comes up and says, I'm sorry, you know, we only have 15 balls for each brand, so only one of you can pick one. But anything can happen here. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of fun stuff. And I think this tag match, I'm not sure if it's on the regular show or if it's going to be on the pre-show. I know that sometimes matches get planned to go onto the regular card, and then when they plan everything out the day of the event, sometimes stuff gets bumped to being on the pre-show. So we'll see what goes down with this one, but I'm looking forward to this one either way. It's going to be a good one, but I'm rooting for Benjamin and Gable, but I think the Usos are going to pull it out. All right, tag title time for the Monday Night Raw brand. It's going to be those new members of the Shield. We've got Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan going up against The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus. I honestly am really surprised that Cesaro and Sheamus are still going as a tag team. I think that they both were really, really good single stars. Of course, Sheamus a couple times with the World Heavyweight Championship. At one point, it looked like he was the guy that WWE really wanted to build the SmackDown brand around WrestleMania 28 when he won the Royal Rumble, then went on to WrestleMania where he would beat Daniel Bryan in the opening match in a matter of seconds in order to win the World Heavyweight title. But, you know, when Mick Foley planned it and put these guys together, I think he really came up with a good idea, because I didn't really think at the time that these guys would still be going strong and kicking all this ass. But the Bar been a really good team on the Monday Night Raw brand, and they're going to be going up against this sort of a weird pairing. And Seth Rollins is even saying that Jason Jordan is winning him over. He didn't think this was going to last, and he sort of thought this was going to be a tag team a lot like, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I'm sure the tag team was Dude Love. You know, Mick Foley really wanted to be his partner, but Austin didn't want to have a partner back in like 1997, which I think would then lead to them feuding with, you know, Vince McMahon, when we almost thought we were actually going to get the Austin versus Vince match, and then Dude Love came out and shoved his fingers down Austin's throat. This is going to be a good match, and honestly, I'm thinking off the top of my head right now, but I'm thinking that the Bar is not going to be able to pull off the win at this show. I'm thinking that Jordan and Rollins will overcome the odds to keep the titles, but the breakup should be coming sooner than later. I've been hearing a lot of things that basically they're having to go in different directions now because of Ambrose's injury. But as of right now, I'm hearing that it's planned that it's going to be Jason Jordan against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. This should be honestly a feud because of the breakup of the tag team. I'm guessing that it has to be that Jason Jordan finds a way to turn on Seth Rollins. I'm guessing that he just needs to prove to his dad, as well as prove to all the fans, how good he is, and that he can stand up to anybody on Monday Night Raw. We've seen this guy go out and have match after match, whether it's Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, trying to earn respect, and he's always had good matches, but he's never been able to pull out the win. And if Jason Jordan does go to WrestleMania and has a match against Seth Rollins, I'm not saying that's main event caliber, but it's definitely big enough to be on the show. Instead of being, you know, set on the pre-show. Seth Rollins, a guy, won the Money in the Bank. He is a two-time former WWE champion, and he always seems to be almost in the thick of it. These two tag teams honestly should go out there and really beat the hell out of each other and just tear it up. I honestly would not be surprised that all four members of this team ends up in the Royal Rumble. As of right now, they're not named as competitors to be involved in the match. I think that they'll be there once it comes down to it. You need 30 guys to fill it up, and I think this year is going to be sort of hard to find surprises of people to be going into the match. I think that it's just going to be mainly guys on the main roster, maybe some guys from NXT. And I guess a lot of people have been talking about the WWE UK champion, you know, canceling a date on a house show. Not a house show, I apologize, an indie date. And it just happens to be the same day as the Royal Rumble, so I'm guessing he's going to be coming in. So that should be really fun to see all of these guys go in there. When it comes down to it, all four of these members are big members of Monday Night Raw. I would not be surprised to see. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few of these guys involved in the thick of it. I think Seth Rollins is a guy that is a former champion that is looked at as the threat to win the Royal Rumble. He would not be my pick, but for somebody trying to set up something that he could do it, and maybe you see where Shawn Michaels dumps Diesel out of the Royal Rumble, and then you have to, you know, sort of debate, was it on purpose, was it on accident? That's something that they could do with Jason Jordan, because they have to work towards this WrestleMania match. Is it going to be that, you know, Jason Jordan just was trying to help, but ends up, being some kind of dummy. And now Rollins doesn't have a match for WrestleMania, and we have to build to the point where we do the Rollins match. The bar, with the fact that these guys can work together as well as work singles. I think Sheamus and Cesaro would be threats to be involved, maybe even going as far as the Final Four before finding a way to be eliminated. I mean, they're good singles wrestlers as well as tag guys. So, I think that this honestly could go either way. So I would not be surprised to see them in there. I wouldn't pick any of them to win the Rumble, but I do think they're all going to be there. When all the smoke clears on their match, I still see Rollins as well as Jordan holding the tag titles. I think that it is going to be a good day for this match. I think it's pretty much well said this is going to be on the show. It's not going to be on the pre-show or anything like that. So we'll see what goes down. WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble right up around the corner. Big one going down at the Royal Rumble this year is going to be Kane and his good buddy Braun Strowman going up against Brock Lesnar for the WWE Universal Championship of Monday Night Raw. This honestly is going to be a three-way match, a lot like the match for the SmackDown WWE Championship. I think this honestly, when it goes down, is probably going to be a big match. But because of the fact this match involves Kane, I can honestly tell you guys that I'm a little loopy on it. I don't think this is going to be, that big of a deal. This match honestly reminds me of the three-way for the World Heavyweight Championship. I believe back in about 2003 when it was Goldberg. He was putting his title up on the line against Triple H and Kane. And I think a lot of people thought, even back then, that Kane was in that match to take the fall, where they could transfer the title from Goldberg to Triple H, where Triple H would get to have the championship and Goldberg wouldn't have to take the fall because of the supposed bad blood at the time between Triple H and Goldberg. Goldberg not really being happy with his position in the company, even though he was champion, and just basically saw the writing on the wall. This was not WCW, and he wanted to get out. This will probably be a big match. Braun has been in big matches on pay-per-view, for a while now. Brock seems to always show up, and whether if it's Paul Heyman or somebody working with them, finds a way to put the big spots in there where the match doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it is sort of, hitting you hard to the point where you're like, oh, man, that was good once it was done, even though you're sort of looking at the clock like, man, I think that match went down and it only was about 3 minutes long. I'm not looking for a ton out of this. I think everybody knows that we're getting to the point where it's going to be Brock Lesnar having the championship go on the line against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So it's just the point of him winning this match. I guess, Brock's not even going to be at the Elimination Chamber next month. So that's all he really has to do to get to the point where then we need a number one contender for Monday Night Raw to put on the line at the upcoming WrestleMania coming up around the corner. And then I guess you can finally have where Roman beats Brock, which was supposed to be the story of WrestleMania 31 before Seth Rollins got involved. And then, Roman beat Triple H, and then Roman beat Undertaker. And he's still not over. So we got to have him beat Brock. So we'll see what goes down with this one. Braun Strowman someday. It's hard for me to say. I was just about to say that someday Braun Strowman's probably going to be WWE Champion. But I still look at Braun Strowman a lot like Stinsky. Or Stinsky, he went back. He changed his gimmick. He shaved his head. He got all, scary looking. They fed him to Cena. And then the guy was out of the company. I'm not sure that Strowman really is that guy that's going to be around forever, because I think sooner than later, the Raw writers are going to paint Strowman into some sort of a funny-looking gimmick, and he's never going to be the same ass-kicker ever again. But in this match, call your bookie, tell them all, I'm betting on Brock, because he's winning the title. He's not winning the title, I apologize. He's keeping the title, and we're going on to WrestleMania. SmackDown has a really good, entertaining match for the WWE Championship. It's going to be 2-on-1, a handicap match for the WWE Championship, where AJ Styles is going to be putting the title on the line against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. In back-to-back editions of SmackDown, basically how this storyline got started was first, AJ Styles had a match against Kevin Owens, where Sami Zayn got involved during the match. And then the next week, AJ Styles had a match against Sami Zayn, where Kevin Owens got involved in the match. Basically, in a moment of frustration, AJ Styles basically, said in an interview where it's like, well, I try to fight one of you and the other one gets in there. I try to fight the other one and the other one gets in there. I might as well fight both of you at the same time. And that is where Daniel Bryan stepped in and basically said, AJ, I think you have a really good idea. And at the Royal Rumble, we're going to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn competing against you in a handicap match for the WWE Championship. I know that I've seen a match like this. A lot of times I've seen it where it would be like, Booker T and Shane McMahon against The Rock for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that was back during the Invasion in 2001. But I thought that during that one, it was always sort of explained that if, even if Shane pinned The Rock, Booker would be the champion. This one, I think, is a little bit different. I think that it is going to be a handicap match, but I think a little bit of it is drawn up like it's going to be a three-way, where if Owens pins AJ, Owens is the champion. If Sami pins AJ, Sami is the champion. I think that's going to be a little bit of fun. We'll have to see how AJ overcomes the odds, because I think AJ is going... I think that AJ is going to win this match. I think AJ is going to be more than likely the champion when it comes to WrestleMania. But this is really fun. I mean, also at the same time, you have to think of the storyline that is going down. You have the babyface commissioner. You have the sort of gray commissioner with, Shane McMahon trying to do the right thing, trying to make sure that the good guys overcome the odds. But there is the real storyline that AJ is the champion, but, Shane McMahon does not like Kevin Owens because of their feud. Kevin Owens took a headbutt shot to Vince McMahon is where this all started, which led to the Hell in the Cell match where Sami Zayn pulled Kevin Owens out of the way and let Shane McMahon come crashing through the announce table where he would lose the match, and that's where Sami gets involved. And Daniel Bryan is just trying to keep SmackDown a good, clean wrestling show where that not everyone is going to be friendly with one another, but you don't want the guy in charge making the rules where it's impossible for you to have a good, clean wrestling match. And I think that's where Daniel Bryan gets in there, even though they're trying to paint it like in the back of your mind, you're wondering, is Daniel Bryan part of the yep ordeal with Owens and Zayn? This is going to be a good match. I'm picking AJ to win this one. I think that it's going to be a really, really fun one. I think that honestly, we'll have to see times of the match where AJ has to use the speed and sort of, hit and run and jump and dive to try and take somebody out of the match. It would be fun to see some, AJ Styles pull out the roll of duct tape, a lot like John Cena did against Batista, or something where maybe one of them gets locked up in a shark cage, where he has to basically outsmart the heels to overcome the odds. But I'm picking AJ. I think he's going to keep the championship, and this is going to be a good match on the Royal Rumble. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. It was announced by WWE that they're going to be housing the 2019 Royal Rumble right there live from Phoenix. It was only just a few years ago I went down to Phoenix. Of course, then it was at the U.S. Airways Arena or something like that, where The Rock won the championship. I remember The Rock came out on Monday Night Raw, and basically he announced that he was going to be competing for the WWE Championship for the first time in years, the Royal Rumble. And I thought, there's no way in the world they're going to announce The Rock as the number one competitor for the WWE Championship and him not win that match. Let alone, even if that match goes down, I want to be there. And but before The Rock even got out of the ring and his promo was done, I had already bought a ticket on Ticketmaster to the Royal Rumble, and I had already booked a flight to fly to Phoenix for that night. I made that decision, and I acted on it so fast. This year, I can honestly tell you that, the Royal Rumble is a year away for the 2019 Royal Rumble, but I can honestly tell you that I think that I can easily say I'm not going to be attending this Royal Rumble in Phoenix, even though we had so much fun on that trip. It was hanging out with Luke, it was hanging out with Kevin, Miguel, my buddy Mario. I had a lot of good times going to that show and seeing Rock win the championship and John Cena won the Royal Rumble. I can honestly tell you that it looks like WWE is going to kick it up a notch, because now WWE makes these big pay-per-views into basically vacation weekends, and they're going to be housing the Royal Rumble in 2019 at Chase Arena. Or not Chase Arena, is it Chase Stadium? Where the Diamondbacks actually play baseball. So this is a really big deal, almost like Royal Rumble becoming a WrestleMania-like atmosphere, being housed in this big of a place. I went to Phoenix in 2005, and when I was driving around the town, I stumbled upon the Chase building there, and it was one hell of a building. It was huge. I went down there actually to see baseball. I was following spring training, a vacation that I had always wanted to go on, and I went down there. And even though my team is the Atlanta Braves, they're in Florida for spring training, I followed the Oakland A's. And it was really cool to, on most days, go see baseball and see games twice a day in different cities. I traveled, I saw the Giants play one day, I saw the Brewers, the Angels, the Royals. I saw lots and lots of good baseball, and it was a really fun trip to go on. I even went out and saw a Denzel Washington movie one day at the movie theater. Really fun trip. But Phoenix is a really good town. I'm sure if you go down there, it's going to be packed full of wrestling. I'm sure that you're going to see different styles of shows show up in that city, trying to take advantage of people being there. I'm not sure if you'll see something like Ring of Honor there, but I'm sure you'll see different shows such as like the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard show come there, and other sort of podcasts having pop-up sort of events to be there that's going to fill your time full of wrestling. But the building there is going to be housing NXT, the Royal Rumble, Monday Night Raw, as SmackDown, 4 nights in a row, making this a huge destination pay-per-view that people, I think, are going to be jumping out of the windows in order to make sure they're at this time. So, you guys out there, fly down to Phoenix, have some fun, see who's going to WrestleMania. This year's Women's Royal Rumble is always going to be looked at as the first Women's Royal Rumble. It is going to either be the new start of a new tradition, or you're going to be seeing what a lot of people are predicting is going to be the largest, biggest clusterfuck of all time, where no one wants to see this match ever again. As of this time, WWE has 18 competitors from Raw as well as SmackDown that have been signed up to compete in this year's Royal Rumble, led by the names of like Asuka, Bayley, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, the Riot Squad. There's lots of big names in this match from people just of Raw or SmackDown, but the rules have always sort of been put out there that there is going to be 30 competitors in this Women's Royal Rumble. I know that with Raw 25, we saw a lot of names come back from the past. We saw Michelle McCool, we saw Trish Stratus, we saw Kelly Kelly. These are all a lot of names that we could see involved in this match, but there's only 18 girls named to be going in this. I know that there's going to be a few girls who get the call up from NXT to be involved in this match. I would not be surprised if we see like Billie Kay or we see Aaliyah. On a side note, how cool is it going to be able to see somebody from the YWC, Aaliyah, that started here with Chick Kick be involved in that first Royal Rumble match. I honestly think that's going to be awesome. You want to be throwing out names like Ember Moon. You want to be throwing out names like Kairi Sane, the winner of the first ever WWE Network Women's Tournament that went down. There's a lot of other girls from NXT that's going to be out there, but still, with 30 names, you got to be filling these holes. Names that were involved with the women's tournament, I'm sure, are going to be out there. Somebody like Molly Holly is a former name from WWE. I'm not sure if she's involved with anything in WWE at the Performance Center or anything like that. But she's somebody that honestly I don't think has ever really lost a step, and could be somebody that gets an entrance, that comes in there, that has a little bit of name value from the Attitude Era. Lita was somebody who was not named. She wasn't even, according to her, invited to be involved at Raw 25, even though she was involved with her picture on the website. Her picture was actually on the event chairs that WWE gave out to the people who attended the show. And according to her, she wasn't there. Lita was somebody that had a big role at the Raw 1000, coming out there with Heath Slater and a bunch of other legends like Vader, Sid, DDP, and other names. Is Lita somebody that we could see run down to the ring one more time? I know that somebody's going to be quick to point out that, she has neck issues and she wouldn't be able to wrestle, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to use Lita because of the fact that she wasn't on Raw 25. Immediately after the Women's Royal Rumble was named, Trish Stratus gave her congratulations to the people that were going to be wrestling on the show, and I think she put in her tweet that she wanted to know where her gear was. Trish, I don't think has been involved with anything in WWE other than going into the Hall of Fame at WrestleMania 29. Since a match on Monday Night Raw in Toronto, in a tag match with John Cena, I think that was back in 2008. No, well, she wrestled at WrestleMania 27 in that Jersey Shore match where it was Snooki, Trish Stratus, and John Morrison. I do remember that now, going up against Lay Cool and, was it Dolph Ziggler? I think was the other guy. I can't remember who the other guy was in the ring against John Morrison. But I think that honestly, the Women's Royal Rumble is going to have some competitors like Michelle McCool come back. Off the top of my head, I would not be surprised to see some names from NXT fill those spots. Trish Stratus, Lita, Michelle McCool. I think that Molly Holly is somebody that could be involved in there. But when it comes down to it, the big one, I think that somebody who's a surprise entrant in this year's Royal Rumble is going to be the one to win it. I think we're finally going to see somebody like Shayna Baszler come in. And if they even want to go as far, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like Ronda Rousey wins it. I know that honestly, if Shayna Baszler wins it, it sort of has to kill her NXT run. And I think you don't want to kill it before it really gets started because she's just really started getting down there and kicking some ass and being involved in some matches. I think they want to polish her up to being one of the biggest names in WWE. If she comes out and she wins it, she would immediately be placed in a women's championship match at WrestleMania, which will get the big rub. If Ronda doesn't want to actually wrestle at WrestleMania, she could come down and be in her corner. But then you're sort of making the Royal Rumble with the Women's Royal Rumble, have it sort of look like that pre-show Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal to WrestleMania, where you see somebody like Mojo Rawley get the win, and then it never really materializes in anything. You think about it, Big Show, Mojo Rawley, Cesaro. Where have that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royals? You got to throw Baron Corbin in there as well. Where did those wins really got those guys, besides for, checks for being on the pay-per-view for the DVD selling with merch sales and things like that? I can't think of much. Ronda to win. That's my bet. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is honestly going to be a little bit of a funny video to make because if you just saw the last video, which was the surprise entrance for the first ever 30 women over the top Royal Rumble, I pretty much said who the winner is going to be there. This is going to be a big match for Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, as well as WWE. I made a guess that I would bet some even NXT competitors are going to be involved in this match. I would not be surprised if the YWC's own Chick Kick Aaliyah comes out to be involved in this match, because as of right now on WWE.com, there is only 18 names to be involved in this match, even though they blatantly say in the title, in the rules, in everything, that there's going to be 30 competitors in there. I know that we're going to see some sort of surprise, sort of Legends people come back, which is sort of funny that we just saw Raw 25, and we saw a lot of names, especially women, come back. And I know we saw the Bellas. They're going to be jealous that they're not going to be involved. They already did an episode of Total Bellas where they said they were really jealous about not being involved in the first ever women's Money in the Bank match in the early part of the summer. Now here they are. They're both going to miss this Royal Rumble. Nikki did wear her gear to the show. Brie came out there sort of like, I don't know what to say, like sort of like managing role. It's definitely not something that she would wrestle in. But maybe Nikki was trying to tip the hat that she wants to wrestle if it is going to be something that it is going to be a big deal. They both have not really been shy about saying that they want to come back. I don't know if they're trying to plan their comeback when both of them are able to be a part of it or be a part of something. But I'm sure that if they needed something, Nikki would be there. I don't think that Nikki is somebody that I would throw in there to be the winner. The winner of this match, honestly, is probably going to be tougher to decide than it is for the men's Royal Rumble match, for the fact that we saw Asuka come out on Monday Night Raw, and she beat up a ton of other women and got a real hot spot in that match. But I don't think that she is the clear-cut person to win this match, even if it's somebody who's not involved in WWE at the time. We could see some sort of a celebrity come in. We could see some sort of a legend come in. The winner of this match is going to be memorialized for the end of time in WWE as winning the first ever Royal Rumble. A lot like Hacksaw Jim Duggan is by winning the first ever Royal Rumble back in 1988. So it is going to have to be somebody that they really want to make look like it's going to be on the pedestal. And Charlotte can't do it because Charlotte already is a champion. I was surprised that they didn't find a way to get the title off of her. But she is probably the one person that somebody's going to want to compete against at WrestleMania for winning this one way or another. So that is the one thing that makes me think that maybe somebody from Monday Night Raw is not going to win this match. To put it there. But when I look over this, I think that, from the competitors in WWE, I think Asuka would be an easy pick for somebody that I think is going to win. I would not be surprised if Becky Lynch is high on a lot of people's names out there. Carmella is somebody that people should be looking at, but she already has the Money in the Bank briefcase, which she has not cashed in yet. Everyone else that is on the list, I think that they're just women that fill up the roster. There's a lot of new talent. Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, they're the Riot Squad, so they're on SmackDown. And then you've got Mandy Rose and, what's the name of the other one that's with Paige? Sonya Deville is her name. I mean, they are going to be the future of WWE. I think that they might have got moved up a little bit, before their time really was over in NXT. I thought they were building up a good women's division in NXT, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's scrap. But there's a lot of women down there working out of the Performance Center that I think that they're going to be building up sooner than later. There's one girl that I saw wrestle a match on Lacey Evans. I think it's somebody that's going to be really, really good over time. But I think that the overwhelming thing that's going to happen in this match is that either Shayna Baszler has a really coming out party in this match where she's going to have, that sort of Kane or Diesel or Roman Reigns like moment where she just comes in and tosses a lot of people out. But I think the winner, in my mind, is going to be somebody that isn't signed with WWE, but you see talked about a lot in interviews and sort of rumored about, and even Triple H sort of hinted at this happening sooner than later, was that Ronda Rousey, who is officially done with UFC, comes in and wins the Women's Royal Rumble. I think that this honestly is something that is going to happen, and I think it is going to be a really big deal where it's going to be ran on ESPN. It's going to be on SportsCenter. You'll see it on the cover of the USA Today, bro. I think that, her being involved in WWE is definitely going to get a lot of publicity for the WWE Network and a lot of publicity for WWE leading towards her match at WrestleMania, where even though this is looked at as some sort of a surprise, but her, I guess you can say, fight against Charlotte for the Women's Championship will be heavily promoted, whether if it's through commercials or ads, and people can know, you get WrestleMania, you're going to get it. We already saw at WrestleMania 31, she had sort of I guess it was just a run-in, I guess you can say, with The Rock involving Triple H and Stephanie, and everybody can remember that sort of short clip with Triple H and Stephanie being locked in the armbar was played all over ESPN, all over SportsCenter. I don't know what kind of schedules she'll have, and I don't want to be one of those people who are complaining about, now the women's champion isn't involved on Raw. But she could come in and have a lot like a Brock Lesnar role for WWE, only being used on certain big shows along the way. And see where they go from there. But I'm taking Ronda Rousey. I think she might be the overwhelming favorite to win this match, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, looking over, WWE as a whole, after the whole Raw 25 deal, we saw a lot of faces come back for the special episode. Every year with the Royal Rumble, they seem to bring people in, to the match, whether if it is, for a short comeback to the company, like in 2002, when they brought back Goldust, as well as Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. I think that was a little bit about, trying to make sure that they did not sign with TNA, and just thought that maybe they could find somewhere to use them. Both guys came into the company. They didn't have the longest runs before being let go, but they got to have a little bit of a run in that Rumble, and we've seen that over the time. When they bring guys in for that one-off and then they come out and they get that big pop, I think Vince gets that sort of sense of nostalgia and says, hey, the people want to see these guys, let's use them until people don't want to see them anymore. We don't have to have them win the Rumble, but it is going to be fun to see them wrestle on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and keep them around for just a little bit, because I think Vince really does love the guys from the past. This year is going to be a little bit hard to predict who's going to be surprise entrants into the Royal Rumble, because as you can tell, you guys look at the sheets every day just like I do, there really are no strong rumors about people that are going to be involved in the Rumble that aren't in WWE's right now. Both brands, Raw and SmackDown, have full list of guys, and they don't have a lot of injuries. Plus they're bringing a third brand along, 205 Live, where I think a lot of those guys will be getting shots to go into there. On top of that, they have NXT wrestlers as well as WWE UK guys that are under contract, which I think really could be used on the show to add a lot of fun to what's going to be going down. When I look around what's going down in the world of wrestling, I have not heard that Bobby Lashley had been released from TNA. He was on the show just the other day, but of course everybody's seen EC3 goodbye to Impact Wrestling after losing his last match with the Feast or Fire deal. So, he is free for the picking. Some people have said they've seen him at the Performance Center, so he is somebody that could be coming in to WWE sooner than later. I don't like to knock EC3. He's a really nice guy as well as a really good wrestler. I just don't see where he really fits into Raw or SmackDown at this time, and I would not be surprised if when he did come in, if he was an NXT branded wrestler. There's no knock on somebody coming into the company and only being involved in NXT. It's always a door where they could go out there and outperform what is going on and get moved up to the roster sooner than later. I think Kevin Owens was a guy that is very well talked about, is that when he was signed to WWE, he was signed to WWE to only be involved with NXT. They told him flat out to his face, don't have your hopes up on being involved with Raw or SmackDown. Your place is to basically be an NXT guy. And after only performing there for like 3 or 4 months, was moved up to the main roster. There is no backup to this story, but I think Samoa Joe is another guy which could be put in that place where basically he, got, moved up to the main roster after overperforming in NXT and basically, finally getting a spot on the main roster. No, it wasn't last year, the year before. I think he's been on the main roster now for 2 years coming up this year. Rey Mysterio is the guy that's always going to be named out there. When WWE always does polls basically saying, who are wrestlers not involved in WWE that you want to see come back. Rey's always at the top of the charts there, always been a real fan-friendly wrestler, very over with a lot of fans that, at the time he left, were younger and they're still holding on to being wrestling fans. People want to see Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio coming back home to WWE is something that they really want to see. The Rumble would be a great place to kickstart that for that. As of right now, according to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer podcast, basically, he said the only thing keeping between a Rey Mysterio comeback in WWE is money. And basically, Mysterio, I think the number was going to ask for like, what is it, I think he said $3 million a year. And that's just what, WWE's not going to pay. But I guess that is what Rey is making on the indies as of right now. So I think everybody's seen the numbers about what, the guys in WWE make. That was a big story that was out there a few weeks ago. And Rey getting a deal for $3 million a year is going to put him at, not the very top, because I think it was like Brock made 10, Cena made so much, and then Undertaker made 1, and the numbers just go on from there. I can't remember off the top of my head, and somebody's going to say, "Hey, that guy was wrong," and I was. But I can't really think of anybody else because of so much things. Impact has some guys under contract right now where they're using them on their shows, but there's not a lot of people out there that are big names that are not involved in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like Chris Jericho would always be a rumored guy to be going into the Royal Rumble, but this year, he had the match with Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12. They got sort of a present to use him backstage at Raw 25. But I don't think they would really want him wrestling on the Royal Rumble when he's supposed to be, helping out New Japan at the same time. So I don't know. That's a weird one that's sort of always up in the air. But I think as of right now, I don't think he might not have a contract, but I think that he is associated with New Japan, and I don't think that Vince is going to be wanting to use him in the Royal Rumble, no matter, how big of a deal to wrestling marks like me and you is to think that a guy from New Japan is wrestling in WWE in a match. So I can't really think of anybody else off the top of my head. There's no real rumors, bouncing around. There's always going to be that guy like Rob Van Dam that they might know is going to get a pop. I think it was the Royal Rumble 2006 off the top of my head, where he wasn't in WWE and hadn't been in WWE in a while, and they used him as a one-off, where basically he just ran out there for the match, wrestled in it for a while, got eliminated, and then we didn't see him again until he popped up in TNA years later. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of surprises this year, guys. It's just going to have to be one of those things. But no big surprises for the Rumble this year. To me, the Royal Rumble will always be main evented by the Royal Rumble. I know that over the history of time, we've seen a few matches, a lot like Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, being involved in the casket match. It was sort of looked at as the main event because it closed out the show. But to me, like I said earlier, the road to WrestleMania starts with the Royal Rumble, because the winner of the Royal Rumble goes on to WrestleMania to wrestle in the so-called main event of the show. This year, to me, is not overwhelmingly obvious who the winner is going to be. I know that there's only a few guys that there could be, storylines for them to win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania. And there's going to be a lot of other guys that just sort of fill out the actual number of guys that are going to be involved in the match. On WWE.com right now, there's only 17 competitors named for the show. I know that over the history of time, they've always sort of filled the pre-show out by having one year they had a tag team match where the guys competed in a fatal 4-way where there was 8 guys competing to be involved in 2 spots for the Royal Rumble. So that's one way of always sort of filling out some time for guys to be involved in the match. But there's going to be a lot of guys that just sort of grab numbers and nobody's going to know who they are until they come out, and it doesn't really matter who it is. When you look over the guys that are involved in the match, more than half of them, there's no chance in hell they're going to get a shot in there. John Cena was the first competitor to name himself eligible for this year's Royal Rumble. I think that he is a guy that we can talk about winning the Rumble. Finn Balor was number 2. I think that Finn definitely deserves a bigger spot and a bigger role in WWE. The one thing that I learned from Raw 25 is not believe everything you hear about Finn Balor not being over. Triple H and the Clique involving DX and Scott Hall giving the rub to the Balor Club, I think all honestly was a really big deal, especially with Triple H grabbing Finn's hand and moving him closer to the end of the ring, closer to the camera side. I think that was telling everybody that's Triple H's guy. And maybe even if Vince doesn't 100% believe in Finn right now, there's going to come a day when Triple H is going to make this guy the motherfucking best wrestler in the world, because that's what he gives us out there. Randy Orton is the guy from SmackDown. He won the Rumble last year. It was the rumored guy to win it. I didn't really want to believe it that was going to be him. But, he ended up being the guy that won it. I don't see him doing it 2 years in a row. Nakamura is probably my choice because I think this anoints this guy as being a big deal. When Nakamura was brought up to SmackDown, a lot of people thought that Nakamura was going to become the new face of SmackDown. So I guess you can say the anointed new John Cena to be out there. I think that he is the guy that we can talk about being the winner. From there, we just go to guys like The Miz. One hell of a wrestler. Rolling Stone might want to say that he's the wrestler of the year, but there's no way in the world that I think The Miz is going to win this WrestleMania. Then we're filled out by Elias, Baron Corbin, Woken, Matt Hardy, Bray Wyatt. These are all really good characters for Raw. But I don't think there's a chance that any of these guys are going to be walking out the Royal Rumble champion, because there's no way to tie them into a championship match. Then we just go to Jokes of the Year with Aiden English, Rusev, Titus O'Neil, Apollo Crews, Titus Worldwide. Roof, roof. There's no way in the world that these guys are going to be getting it done. Ty Dillinger, one of my favorite guys on the main roster, 10. But he's not going to be winning this. Big E, Kofi, and Xavier, they're a tag team. I guess you could finally do the storyline that they used years ago where, Big E and Xavier wrestled in a tag match, and then Kofi Kingston wrestled in the Money in the Bank ladder match. But I'm tired of talking about that. It doesn't seem like they're ever really going to sort of use this as a faction instead of just using it as a tag team in the tag team division. John Cena, I came up with an interesting thing that if Cena was to win the Royal Rumble, Cena could take an interesting technique where he says, I understand that over the history of time, the winners of the Royal Rumble have said they wanted to fight for either the Raw or the SmackDown Championship. I want to cash in my Royal Rumble to have a different type of match where I compete against the dead man at WrestleMania. I guess you can say win, lose, or draw. There is a way to get Cena to Undertaker at WrestleMania, which I'm still not letting go of as my dream match for this year's WrestleMania. There was too much smoke for there not to be some sort of a fire where they're talking about Cena versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. And I think that, there's a couple different ways to get there. And I think somebody winning the Royal Rumble and basically saying, I don't want to use it on a championship match, makes the match at WrestleMania mean even more. Finn Balor, to me, is honestly one of the coolest and one of the best wrestlers out there. As of right now, it seems that Balor is going to be getting used a lot with this Balor Club idea that, basically the fans have been looking for the past year to 2 years, since Luke Gallows and Machine Carl Anderson came over from New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't really see this being the Rumble where he gets it done, but I do think it would be awesome for him to finally compete in the WrestleMania big match. Last year we didn't get him because of the fact that he was injured and he was trying his best to train to come back, but he missed the deadline and he had to. I think he came back the night after on Monday Night Raw because I think it was just too late to enter him into any kind of storyline to have the match at WrestleMania mean anything, and you don't want to just have this guy come out for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I think that honestly Nakamura is the guy that if he was able to win the Royal Rumble, I think that Nakamura is the guy that could go to WrestleMania and have a really good match against AJ Styles, who is the champion right now. That is a match that we've seen in the past at Wrestle Kingdom 9. It was that one, right? Or was it Wrestle Kingdom 10? One way or another, we've seen this match on a Wrestle Kingdom on the big stage, and they were able to deliver a really, really good match. I think that AJ and Nakamura could plan out a match, whether if they wanted to have it sort of that New Japan style to show a lot of people a match that they've never seen before, where they're not going to be afraid to hit each other and just beat the shit out of each other like they did at Wrestle Kingdom, or just go out there and have a really crisp, clean, I don't want to say spot fest with a lot of oohs and ahs before, finally the winner comes out on the end. Definitely, to me, I thought it was a little funny that Nakamura was able to go out and defeat John Cena on SmackDown to become the #1 contender to have matches against Jinder Mahal, where I believe it was Nakamura versus Jinder at SummerSlam, and then I believe 2 pay-per-views after that, when it would have been a lot easier for Cena to go into SummerSlam and sort of have the USA versus India match, instead of having the Nakamura sort of have Japan versus India, where Nakamura would get his first title shot against what was looked at as a weaker competitor than he was, and have Jinder overcome the odds and defeat Nakamura 3 times in a row. To me, I sort of looked at that as WWE saying that Nakamura was a big deal, being involved in the main events of these SmackDown shows, but they wanted something later on down the road where he would not win the title at SummerSlam. He won the big one at WrestleMania, and that is something that people could grab hold to and really think that this is a big deal. I'm really looking forward to this year's Rumble. I think that Nakamura, to me, honestly, is the overwhelming odds favorite to win it. As you heard from me, there's only 2 guys to really think of as a chance to win it. Roman Reigns has not been named for the Rumble, but I think that he is going to be in there. I would not be surprised that Roman has to compete at the Elimination Chamber from Monday Night Raw to earn his shot. So even though the Roman, I think, is going to be in the match, he'll probably have, Jason Jordan, Seth Rollins, Cesaro, Sheamus, they'll be pulling double duty, being involved in the Rumble as well. And for Monday Night Raw, those guys all have chances to win, but I think that when it comes down to it, I think that we see Nakamura come out with the win, and this is sort of like the crowning. He's the king. He wore the crown in freaking Japan. I think this is the crowning moment for him to actually be that main event guy for WWE and take us higher. For WWE, I know that they have the Elimination Chamber coming up around the corner, which leads us into WrestleMania. I'm guessing that SmackDown has some sort of show in February, but I guess it's not guaranteed because Raw didn't have a show in the month of December, and I've always heard that WWE is going to be doing less shows. But this is the kickoff on the road to WrestleMania. I think a lot of people are going to be going to New Orleans this year, one of my favorite places that ever hosted a WrestleMania. So, guys, I'm really looking forward to this show. Raw 25 might have been a letdown, but I think this is going to be a good one.